Thank you. Good evening. I'm Tom Mordini, my wife Sharon. I appreciate being invited to the Heart of America to give this talk tonight. As a matter of fact, it was early in the winter. I was laying in bed, sound asleep, or just laying in bed wondering about things, and I was wondering and worrying if I'd be invited to be a guest speaker. This is something a lot of people don't really care to do. I don't mind doing it, but I appreciate Bob inviting me. Bob, I would like to take just a quick moment here to thank you and your organization for the great job that you have done. I don't think anybody has thanked you yet. Thank you. This display in front of us of Rose Show and Poppy Show plates and bowls is probably the most impressive display of this particular pattern that you will ever have the opportunity to see. I know it's the most I have ever seen at one time. I have a list of people here that I would like to acknowledge quickly. This, unfortunately, is not my glass. Mine is Sharon's glass. Some of it is. The following people brought this glass to display today, and I want to thank them because some of them brought them great distances, at great expense, and great risk. We have the lion's share up here belongs to Charlie, Eleanor, and Brent Mokel. Gary and Deb Heckenberger brought 3 pieces, which I'll tell you which ones they are later, on the airplane from Pennsylvania. And the following people also helped contribute a certain amount of this glass. Bruce Hill, Noreen Duran, Steve Davis even brought in 1 piece at the very end, and Father Bernie Talley, who happens to be Noreen's brother, all contributed to this display. Thank you very much. There's a total of about 8 or 49 Poppy Show and Rose Show items up here. Even as impressive as this is, and as many as there are, it doesn't include the entire spectrum, or the entire number of Poppy Show and Rose Shows that could be available. We do not have, for instance, a simple item, but it got overlooked. A Marigold Poppy Show bowl is not up here. There is no Horehound Poppy Show plate, although I understand that there is one. There are no Horehound Poppy Show bowls up here. And there is no Lime Opal, or no Lime Poppy Show bowl. I understand that all of those do exist, but they aren't up here. We don't have them. As you look at these, you wonder why there are certain pieces aren't here that possibly could be here and don't exist. I have a list here of some items in Poppy Show and Rose Show that I don't believe exist. If they do exist, I've never heard of them. For instance, there are no Sapphire Rose Show plate. There is no Sapphire Rose Show plate or Aqua Rose Show plate. In Poppy Show plates, we do not have Sapphire, Custard, Ice Green Opalescent, Lime Green, Aqua, or Emerald Green. Possibly, I might be wrong on Emerald Green. We're calling these just green, but there could be Emerald Green Poppy Show plates. In Poppy Show bowls, we do not have Sapphire, Custard, Ice Green Opal, Lime Green, Aqua, or Emerald Green. I'm not aware that those items do exist, but as you can see, there are an awful lot of them up here that do exist. This is a very, very impressive and very expensive display. I asked Charlie and Eleanor to go through quickly and tally up what we think is the value. And we're looking at about $250,000 worth of Poppy Shows and Rose Shows in this simple little display covering 2 tables. It's an awful lot of money for only 48 or 49 pieces of glass. And when you look at these and you think, gee, you know, I'd really like to get involved in collecting Poppy Show and Row Show, but I really can't do it because it's way too expensive. You really don't have to collect expensive carnival glass or the rarest of everything to enjoy this hobby. I think Richard Sinclair pointed that out in his talk. Simple pieces of glass, inexpensive pieces, even $5 and $10 glass can be just as pretty as what you're looking at up here. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Excuse me. And you don't have to collect a lot of pieces to have fun at collecting carnival glass. You can collect, if you like to collect the rarities, you can pick up 1 or 2 pieces a year and have just as much fun collecting as going out and accumulating 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 pieces a year. I remember a couple years ago, my friend Bob Allaire, where's Bob? Way back there. Bob is probably one of the most enthusiastic carnival glass collectors that you'll ever find.
We have an addition to your collection up there.
Pardon me? Okay, here comes a Marigold Poppy Show bowl. I knew somebody would do that. Thank you. Anyhow, I was talking with Bob a couple years ago, and Bob, as enthusiastic as he is, running up and down the halls of the Hoga and at the various conventions, gathering up a piece here and a piece there, out of breath, carrying 6 and 8 pieces at a time, running back to his room, wondering where the heck he's going to get 10 more pieces. And I stopped him in the hall one day and I said, Bob, what are you doing? He said, my God, man. He said, get out of my way. He said, I'm trying to buy some glass. I said, Bob, why do you feel this need to buy 10 pieces here and 20 there? I says, you're going crazy trying to accumulate all this glass. He says, I'm trying to put together a good collection. I says, you don't have to do that, Bob. I says, you can get a super collection of carnival glass if you buy just 1 piece a year. That's all you need. He said, 1 piece a year? I said, sure. I said, think about it. You probably spent $6,000, $7,000 here already this week. I said, you could have saved all that and just bought 1 piece, taken it home, and you'd have just as much fun with 1 piece, and a good investment. He thought about that. He still gave that some thought. So the next year I came to the Hoga and looked at Bob, and he had 6 or 7 packages under one arm and 4 or 5 under the other, and I stopped him. I said, Bob, what are you doing? He said, man, get out of my way. He said, I'm trying to buy some carnival glass. I said, Bob, I thought we talked about this. I thought you were going to buy 1 piece a year. He said, I am. I said, Bob, I said, you got 9 pieces of glass in there. He says, yes, I do. I said, well, that's not 1 piece a year. He says, it is. This one is 1993. This one's for 1994. This one's for 1995. Bob's a good guy, great friend of mine. We have, well, first of all, I'd like to tell you, I'm not going to keep you here till you're hungry again. We're going to get out of here fairly soon, but we have a lot to cover, so we'll keep going. My wife doesn't particularly like to get up here and do these things. She says, get Vanna White or somebody to point at this stuff. I'm not going to do it. So I've never been to pointer school. So I decided to ask my old standby buddy, Tom Burns, to come up and help me. He did this last year at the American with me. It worked out pretty good. So Tom, if you'd come up and help me through this, I'd appreciate it.
We have an auction after the show.
Oh, by the way, all of the auction, or all of the raffle items went to people that aren't here tonight. So I've talked to the owners of this glass, and they've all agreed to continue to draw until somebody in the audience gets all of this stuff.
Gary just bought 10,000 tickets.
As I said, we have 48 or 49 items up here. I'd like to apologize to our good friend Frank Fenton. Frank, unfortunately, none of this was made at your factory. This is all Northwood, folks, with the exception of the Poppy Show vases on the ends, which were made by Imperial. This one on this end is purple and that one on that end. If Tom would pick it up and hold it to the light, that's one of 2 known amber poppy show vases. Beautiful example. The only other one is owned by Don, or was owned by Don Moore, and is now belongs to George Thomas. This is the second one to show up, although I believe James and Judy Key might have an example also. The poppy show and rose show pattern, when they made poppy show and rose show, they really kept things simple. We have a bowl and a plate. That's it. We don't have any other pieces to worry about. We really don't even have hardly any variations on the shapes. The poppy show and the rose show come in a flat plate or a semi-flat plate and in a ruffled bowl. I am not aware of any ice cream shaped bowls in poppy show or rose show. Occasionally you'll see a white plate that looks like an ice cream bowl, but it really isn't. It's just a deep round white plate. In terms of rarity, probably the 2 of them track fairly close. Poppy show and rose show are fairly, almost, I would say most commonly available in white. And then possibly next to marigold, which doesn't track real well. You think marigold would be more rare than white, but I believe I've seen more white than I have marigold.
No.
We do have one variation up here on the rose show pattern, and that is the rose show variant plate. Here's one here in Manager's Blue and one in marigold. I don't have any variant bowls up here. I believe those to have also been made by Northwood. They aren't signed, however. None of these are signed. The recess on the back of the poppy show and the rose show does not permit for a signature. It would be rather difficult to sign these, but I think after all these years of wondering who made these things, I don't think there's any doubt that rose show and poppy show was made by Northwood. All of the evidence seems to be there, the characteristics, the colors, the variety, everything. Tom, I think we can start up at that end. Yeah, we're not going to pick up every one of these. And if I'm in your way, I'm going to maybe just get back so that I don't interfere with your viewing this. Am I in your way from this angle? I'll stand back over here.
I'll get in the way, Tom, that's fine.
Okay. Tom is holding a sapphire blue rose show bowl. One of the rarest of all of the rose show bowl colors, although not the rarest. I've known maybe 5 or 6 examples to exist. It is a true sapphire blue. Beautiful example. Look at that color. That bowl in mint condition is worth probably $5,000, $6,000. Next to that we have a green, not an emerald green, but a green rose show bowl, along with a green rose show plate. Let's take just a minute, Tom, and take this emerald green example in the middle and hold him up. A lot of people wonder what's the difference between green and emerald green. And this is a good opportunity for you to see what it's all about. That's an emerald green bowl, and the other is a standard Northwood green. The emerald green tends to be a bluish green, a little more striking, and commands quite a bit more money. An emerald green bowl is probably worth twice as much, maybe even more than that, over a standard green one. It's a beautiful example.
The key color, blue.
Key color is blue, right? Okay.
We practice this stuff.
Above that, on the far end is a ice green bowl and plate. Not common at all, very valuable. Ice cream plate is worth maybe $4,000 to $5,000 today. Although who knows, after seeing the electric blue plate today hit over what, over 3,000, 3,500?
3450.
3450.
Go down, right? That's right.
Next to that is the ice blue plate and bowl. Also very rare, very beautiful. You'll find these in various shades of ice blue. That ice blue plate at least looks very dark. And the plate will command somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,000 maybe, 2,800. The bowl, something less than that, not much less. Next to that, we have an extremely rare example of horehound, or honey amber. I would prefer to call it horehound. There's a horehound bowl, and there's a little story behind that one.
Pretty full.
Yes. That bowl was one of the first pieces of Carnival that Sharon and I ever acquired. We were very, very new in Carnival glass. Had been buying a lot of $20 and $30 and $40 items like everybody else. And we noticed a ad in the Antique Trader announcing a auction in Anoka, Minnesota on New Year's Day. I can't even remember the year, probably 10 years ago. And Sharon and I got up New Year's Eve at midnight, hit the road at midnight, and drove all the way to Minneapolis, which was like a 7-hour drive. I think I had $400 or $500 in my pocket, not knowing what I was going to encounter up in Anoka. But when we got there, this was one of the items. It was my first introduction to my friend Bruce Hill, or one of the first times I had seen him. He was sitting right behind me. Al Redke was up there. John McKinnon. Quite a few people that I had known by name, but not really personally. Bruce sat directly behind Sharon and I remember that. And we were able to buy that bowl for, I don't know, $250, I think, which even then was very reasonable.
Good job, Bruce.
We ended up buying 60 pieces that day, and I had exceeded my money that was in my wallet, and I turned to my wife and asked her if I could have a loan. She had some money that I wasn't supposed to be able to get at, but it was either pay for the glass or we were going to be in big trouble. So that was kind of our first introduction to auctions and also to buying some pretty good glass. And that piece we bought, that now belongs to Father Bernie Talley in Albuquerque. And the horehound plate above it, also a real nice example, very rare, only a few known, extremely valuable, worth maybe 8, 9, 10,000, who knows by today's standards. Next to that is a super example of lime green Northwood glass. Not ice green, but lime green.
Would you like?
Yes, hold up an ice green and a lime green together. And there's no question about what is ice green and what's lime green. Lime green has a lot of yellow in it, and it's easy to tell. It's really a good, rare Northwood color, and if you look at them and study them a little bit, it's not too hard to tell the difference. Vast difference in the value of those pieces. That lime green plate is probably worth, in today's market, $8,000, maybe $10,000. In fact, I think one sold just recently for $10,000 privately.
Stay.
Next to the, or just below that, we have white Rochot, which is quite common. The value of Rochot and white hasn't changed much since I've been collecting. It's always held fairly close. You can get a bowl like that for $300, $350, $400. Beautiful piece of glass with super iridescence. And the white plate doesn't run much more than that.
But we keep trying.
Right. Next to that, we have a blue, I believe it's blue, a blue Rochot. And just underneath the blue Rochot is a very rare and beautiful green poppy show, along with a poppy show plate. Green poppy show is extremely expensive. A perfect plate today will hit $4,000 quite easily. And the bowl probably $3,000. Directly above that, we have probably one of the most common colors of all of the Rochot pieces. Not the most common, but very, very easy to get. Also, but not cheap. Aqua opalescent Rochot. You'll find these all the way from hardly opalescent to almost totally opalescent. It makes a big difference when you're talking value. Hold that one behind the light here a little bit, Tom, so they can see that. This one is a super example of real thick opal. A bowl like that today could easily hit $2,500, even $3,000. Whereas one that's less iridized or less opal will still sell for a little less than $1,000. That aqua opal rose show bowl reminds me of a little incident that happened not too long ago. I didn't witness this, but I heard about it. My friend Bruce Hill was up in Minnesota, where he lives in the Minneapolis area. Driving through the streets, as he usually does, looking for antique shops. His wife thought he was out selling carpets, but we know better than that. And Bruce was making his usual weekly tour of the shops. He was in the area of the Mississippi River and noticed an antique shop close by the river. Parked his car in a place he had never been to before. Walked over to the shop near the window and noticed in the window an aqua opal rochelle bowl marked $250. Just as he was reaching to go into the door, he heard screams of help. He turned and noticed a man had fallen into the river and was going down probably for the third time. He glanced at the man and he glanced at the bowl and he glanced at the man and he glanced at the bowl, and along, lo and behold, across the street, coming rather rapidly, was his friend John Mikkonen, who also lives close to there. Bruce was getting quite nervous, didn't know what to do exactly, and glanced back at the man and could see that the man was just about done for. Mikkonen was getting closer to the door, and Bruce had to make a decision. And being the guy that he is, turned to the man, turned to the bowl, and headed in the shop and asked the man if he could improve the price on the bowl. No, he wouldn't really do that. Yes, he would. Okay, just above and to the left of the aqua opalescent bowl, we have a blue, is that blue rochelle plate, Tom? A blue rochelle plate, a very nice example. Not terribly expensive until today. Floyd has set a new standard now on the value of rochelle plates. They used to be able to buy a pretty good one for $1,500 or so.
Yeah, the Carnival's about
25, okay. Today a new record was set at over $3,000 on a blue rochelle plate. It was a beautiful example. Next to that we have the ultimate in rochelle plates. And this, folks, is one that you may never again have the opportunity to see. So pay special attention to that one. As many aqua opalescent rochelle bowls as there are, and there's probably literally hundreds of them, we see on the top there the only known example of an aqua opalescent rochelle plate. That's owned by Gary and Deb Heckenberger. It was acquired at an auction, a Tom Burns auction, a couple of years ago for, if I remember right, about $11,500. It's the only example known today. A beautiful piece, nice opal, extremely rare, one of a kind. So when you come up afterwards and look at the glass, pay special attention to that piece. It's really beautiful.
Tell them what it was used for.
Tom told me earlier today that when he went to look at the collection where that plate was located, that plate was sitting on a shelf up in the corner with a flower pot on top of the roses. Miraculously did not get nicked or chipped.
Underplate for flower pot.
Flower pot, yep. It's a beautiful piece. Next to that, we have another very rare example, although I think we can count maybe a dozen of these. Ice green opalescent rochelle plate. Super example. And just below that, an ice green opalescent rose show bowl, which was acquired by Joyce Seal today, or yesterday. And I'm sure Joyce is happy to add that to her collection. She already has the plate, so now she has the bowl and the plate. The plate, in mint perfect condition today, will sell somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000. And the bowl only, well, a little bit more than half of that. Below that, we have a green poppy show plate. Very, very beautiful. These will routinely sell for $3,000 or $4,000, maybe even more now, probably more. Beautiful example. And next to that, we have the only known example of an aqua opalescent poppy show bowl, at least the only one that we know about. A beautiful, beautiful bowl with super, super iridescence and opalescence. Again, this belongs to Gary and Deb Eckenberger. They graciously accepted my request to bring this on the airplane. I didn't give it much thought as to the value of what they were bringing. They brought 3 pieces, and I was tallying them up a little while ago. I think those 3 pieces are probably worth close to $50,000. They brought them on the airplane. I really appreciate that. Yes, Tom?
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
Tomorrow, we're all on the same flight out here back to Pittsburgh. Anything happens to the plane, I'm reaching under the seat.
There's a little story behind that poppy show bowl. I was at the auction. Don Moore had called me and asked me if I was going to the auction, and I said I was. And he asked if I would be willing to bid on that poppy show bowl. And I said I would do that. He said, well, what do you think? 12,000, 13,000? I said, no. I said, I think it's going to take more than that, Don. He said, well, 18,000, 20,000. I said, no, it won't go quite that high. He says, 18,000. I said, okay, I'll go to 18,000 for you. And it brought 18,500, which was the next bid. Lucky for Gary, there wasn't other people there bidding for other people. But Gary had to pay dearly for that, and it's well worth it. But the story behind that is John Woody had mentioned that that bowl was owned by a lady collector, I think in Kansas or Missouri, Oklahoma. Okay, Oklahoma. And she liked the bowl, but she liked another person's purple grape and cable water set better. And they made an even swap. Even swap. So back, those are days long before I ever collected. People didn't really realize the ultimate value of any of this stuff. And they routinely traded stuff like that. It didn't make that much difference. A bowl was a bowl, and a plate was a plate, and purple grape and cable was the ultimate. Things change. But the glass is still beautiful. It doesn't have to be rose show and poppy show to be beautiful. Next to the poppy show plate, we have what I consider to be, and this is just my opinion, the most beautiful piece of Carnival glass ever manufactured. And that is the aqua opalescent poppy show plate. Not the rarest of the examples up here. There's probably 4 or 5 of them known. But absolutely gorgeous. Floyd Whitley and Cecil, I think, owned the first known example. And then since that time, there's been several other examples surface. My friend Tom Burns here was in Florida at a convention several years ago. And he was down there early like he always is, looking for glass, pounding his beat up and down the halls, hoping that something would show up. And a young man, I think, I wasn't there so I'm not sure, but a gentleman came in with a brown paper bag looking for Tom Burns. I think, as the story goes, Tom slept in a little bit late.
I was eating a ham and cheese croissant in the lunchroom.
Tom was not in his room, he was in the lunchroom eating. And the fellow came in looking for Tom Burns, and no one knew where he was, so he happened to stumble across none other than John and Lucille, or maybe it was just John. Britt, and asked John if he would be interested in, being that Tom wasn't around, asked John if he'd be interested in buying a piece of Carnival glass. And John said, yeah. So he opened up the bag, and in there was that very same Poppy Show plate. Well, John got the job done quickly, purchased the plate. Don't know if he apologized to Tom or not, but never did. Owned the plate for a very short while, actually. And then it was acquired by Bruce Hill. And then Bruce was benevolent and let Eleanor and Charlie Mokel and Brent Mokel own that plate.
$2.
For $1.50, yeah. So now that plate belongs to the Mokels. Beautiful, beautiful example. That plate sold privately, not that particular one, but another one sold privately for $20,000. And now rumor has it that somebody is offering $30,000 and would like to buy the plate, but so far it hasn't been sold. Not this one, another example.
That was one hell of an expensive ham and cheese croissant.
Well, John is deeply grateful to you. Above that, we have an example of a, oh, we've already looked at that one. That's the emerald green plate and bowl in Rochelle. A little bit to the side here, we have another example of Rochelle that is not one of a kind, but certainly one of the better ones. Iridized custard glass. Now that bowl that Tom is holding is the only known example of iridized custard Rochelle. Again, when you come up and look at this, pay special attention to that piece. We have 3 pieces up here that are one of a kind, and all of them are here courtesy of Gary and Deb Heckenberger. This belongs to Gary and Deb, and if I remember right, he purchased that the same day he purchased the which one? Oh, the Aqua Opal Poppy Show plate. Is that correct, Gary? Yeah, got them both on the same day. Beautiful piece of glass. I have no idea what that thing is worth. I'm not going to even speculate, but it's worth, you know, an awful lot of money. A beautiful, beautiful example. The plate above it, there's probably, I think I know of 8 or 10. There's probably 15 of them out there someplace. But that's not many when you consider how many people are trying to buy these things. 7 or 8 or 10 examples doesn't amount to much. Beautiful plate. Next to that we have purple poppy or purple Rochelle. Fairly common, not that hard to acquire. Purple Rochelle bowl. You can get those for $700 without too much trouble. The plate will run you $900 to $1,500, depending on how good it is. Below that, we have 2 different shades, actually, of amethyst. I've got them labeled purple, but they're really amethyst. A Poppy Show bowl and a Poppy Show plate. Tom was commenting before the dinner that well, hold up the plate.
Okay. I knew you were going to tell me. I'm right-handed.
The Poppy Show plate is a beautiful, even example. It really has an unusual look to it. I've not ever seen one like that before. Just gorgeous, gorgeous example of Poppy Show in amethyst. That would probably set a record in an auction. Again, none of these are signed. You won't find any signature on the Northwood plates or bowls. You know, when we first started collecting, I read Marion Hartung's books, and she always emphasized that signed Northwood items were better than unsigned ones because they were identifiable. So if you could find signed pieces, you should always buy the signed over the unsigned if you could. Now Fenton never signed any of the old Carnival glass, nor did Millersburg, or most of the companies did not sign their glass. Northwood was probably the most common signature that you would find. But I took the signature thing to heart. And Sharon and I would would go to flea markets, and I was always looking for signed glass, no matter what it was. We were just collecting everything, not just Carnival glass. And we went into a flea market, and I'm looking for signed items, and I can't find anything. And I picked up a bottle. It was a kind of a unique bottle. It wasn't Carnival glass, kind of a Figaro bottle. It was neat. It caught my eye, and I picked it up, and I said, look at this. I said, this thing is signed. And Sharon says, what does it say? I said, it's signed Nova. She says, Nova? Let me see. And she took it, and she turned it around, she looked, and she says, that's Avon, dummy. True story. Nova backwards is Avon. Okay, we have now, Tom, pick up that ice blue opalescent Rochelle bowl. I was never really a true believer that there was such a thing as ice blue opalescent until I saw this piece. I always thought it was just aqua opal, but it really isn't. That bowl on Tom's right is a true ice blue opalescent. It belongs to the Mopals. And Charlie had told me the first time I saw that bowl that it was ice blue opal, but I just kind of wasn't so sure it was. But today, after seeing these together, if there is such a thing as ice blue opalescent, I think that would be a good example. Beautiful piece. I've never seen another one like it. Really nice. Next to the ice blue opal, we have an aqua Rochelle bowl. Not aqua opal, just a plain aqua. It's a quite rare piece to find without any opalescent whatsoever. Quite valuable, worth probably, I don't know, $2,500 maybe, $2,000. Almost always these aqua pieces have a marigold overlay, as does that one. Very rare. Above that, ice green and ice green poppy show in both the bowl and the plate. Very beautiful, very tough to get ice green poppy show, very rare, very expensive. The bowls will run $2,500 to $3,000. The plates will run more than $3,000. Next to those we have the ice blue poppy show. Not as expensive as the ice green, but a lot of money. Worth quite a bit, and they're very valuable, very, very beautiful pieces. We have, I'll hold this one up while you're holding that one. We have another example here that tends to be, it was originally called ice blue. In fact, I sold that to Charlie and I called it ice blue. But until he found the other one, he, pardon me? No. Well, anyhow, it's closer to a kind of an aqua ice blue. It's not a true aqua, but it's definitely a different shape. Okay. White poppy show here. Not hard to get, not expensive. Just like the white rose show, quite available. Not necessarily cheap. Nice looking examples. And marigold, a marigold bowl and a marigold plate. The plate used to sell routinely in poppy show for $400 to $600. Was not a problem. Lately, for some reason, marigold poppy show plates have been getting up in the high thousands, actually, $1,500, $2,000, $1,900. Tom sold two of them back to back in Indiana for $1,900 each. Used to be able to get them with no problem for $600. And then we have the Rochelle variant plates in what I call Renninger's blue. I don't call it Renninger's blue, that's what it is called. Look at this when you come up here. That's a true example of Renninger's blue. You can see it's not cobalt blue at all. In fact, here, there's cobalt blue. Hold that up now, up to the light. Renninger's blue, there's a big difference. So if you want to know what Renninger's blue is, Richard Sinclair had a good example. There's another good example.
Want some help, sir?
I got it. We might have skipped one or two along the way, but that's all right. They all speak for themselves. There's not to say that the most expensive ones are the most beautiful, or that the most beautiful are the most expensive. They're all beautiful. It's a super, super example of Poppy Show and Rose Show, probably the best you'll ever have a chance to see. So I'd like to have you come up after the program, or whenever Bob is done with his part of the show here, so that you can come up and look at these. I do ask that you don't touch these pieces. They don't belong to me, they belong to other people, but in any event, they should not be handled. But come up and enjoy them, photograph them, look at them, talk to the owners. Most of them are right at this table. And they'll be happy to tell you about these pieces. Very, very beautiful pieces, and I thank you again for bringing these.
I have a question.
Yes.
The same color in the Rose Show and the Poppy Show, is there any difference in price then? Will it be the same color?
Oh yes, there can be a big difference in price. For instance, let's talk about the bowl just quickly. A Poppy Show bowl or a Rose Show bowl in aqua opalescent is worth anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 today. That Poppy Show bowl in aqua opalescent today would easily sell for more than $20,000. Identical color, different pattern, but yes, yes, yes. About the only things that I would say, once you get past white marigold, the range of prices changes dramatically. Well, folks, that's about it. I promised I wasn't going to tie you up very long. Unless there are a few other questions, why, I'll turn this back over to Bob. Any other questions? Yes?
Tom, just take an ordinary marigold plate in each variety. What's the difference?
What's your question, Floyd?
I mean, just take the comparable plates. I mean, a marigold Poppy Show and a marigold
Rose Show?
Rose Show with similar quality. What's the real?
Well, it seems to be, like I said, the last three Poppy Shows have all sold up around $1,600 to $1,900, whereas marigold Rose Shows won't get that high. I don't even know if one has ever hit 1,000. 800, 700, somewhere in there.
A lot more Poppy Shows than there are.
I don't know. It seems like maybe Poppy Show is, I might be wrong when I say this, but maybe it's just more desirable than Rose Show. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's true, but they seem to bring more money. There are probably less marigold Poppy Shows than there are marigold Rose Shows, I would guess. Any other questions? Yeah, here.
Just a comment on the limelight things, Rose Show plates. A lot of the old questions used to call those Vaseline.
That's a good point. Gary just pointed out a good point, that there really is no such thing as Vaseline Rose Show. They kind of look Vaseline, but they truly are not Vaseline. They're lime ice cream. I know that over the years people talk about Vaseline Rose Show plates and even Vaseline Hearts and Flowers plates, but they're really lime green. They're not Vaseline. That's a good point. Under a black light, I've looked at a few of them under a black light and nothing happens. At least not the ones I've looked at.
You'll get little effect on top.
Some effect, but nothing, not like true Vaseline. Yeah. Well, you can actually get a little effect on any color Carnival glass when you hold it under a black light, but they're not really a true Vaseline. Okay, that's all I have, and I thank you and hope you enjoy it.